Greetings, everyone. It's Trey here. I'm here on this 10th or first day of the 10th month of October 2021 with my new friend Don, and we are here to discuss some theological questions. And Don and I have not talked. We had some technical difficulties, so we just came on, so we haven't even really greeted each other. So, firstly, it's nice to meet you, Don. Thank you for joining me.
Nice to meet you, Trey.
And so I when I went to your page to send you the link, I noticed you're in Columbia, Missouri. Did you know I'm in Kansas City?
Are you?
Yeah, so we're like 2 hours or less away from each other. So it's kind of funny.
So we're both Chiefs fans then, basically, right?
Yeah. Uh-oh. Oh, I hope we don't have problems with this.
Yeah.
All right. You jumped out there for a second. Okay, so let's see. So we had it keeps jumping out at you leaving and come back. I don't know, something with your phone. I hope
you're
doing it.
Your video goes out too. It just kind of goes away and then you come back.
Huh. I wonder if it's something I'm doing here. Hope not.
So anyway, we were going to discuss some stuff, and I think we decided that we would talk about Christian religion.
Yes. So okay. So you have to remind me what the context of the conversation. So I
don't know if there was a context. we were kind of all over the map. I'm not sure there was a context. I mean,
originally you had said that somehow you were, I think I told you about my page or something. You went and watched a video I did with Randy, and you were saying, yeah, well, there's a big difference between the God of Christianity and the generic God that you were defending. And so I said, okay, well, when are you available? And you kind of said, yeah, I can do it at 4:00 today. So that's basically, we're going to talk about the Christian God. In fact, I think that's the name of I don't even know what the name of the thing is. I can't see it, of our one here, of our title of our talk here. So anyway, but before we begin, though, I'd like to, if you mind telling me a little bit about yourself, and I'll tell you about myself a little bit, maybe any interesting information about yourself. And I kind of like to know where you came from, like where you're at religiously, and if you maybe had a religious background or you're always secular. Just a little bit of background, and I'll tell you about myself, if that's okay.
Okay, sure. That sounds good. I was raised Christian in a Southern Baptist church, which was pretty strict, no dancing, drinking, or anything when I was
fundamentalist, huh?
Yeah, pretty fundamentalist. And just when I got to be around 13 or 14, I guess, I started looking at things, and it just started, more and more of it just didn't make any sense to me, and I couldn't see any really reason to believe that anymore. It wasn't like a traumatic thing. It was kind of gradual. It just kind of like more. It wasn't one thing. It was just like a lot of things that just didn't kind of add up to me anymore.
Okay. And then, are you married? Got any kids or anything?
Yeah, I'm married. Have 4 kids.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm retired. Been retired for over 10 years.
Okay.
Probably been my most of my kind of philosophical leanings are kind of based, or, well, I guess when I started off, I didn't do anything. When I kind of got out through high school and college, I didn't really do anything religious. And then when I got out of college, I started looking at things a little differently, and I looked at a lot of different religions, and I actually went back to the church that I'd been brought up in, and went to a lot of different things. And I think the first thing that really hit me was the Tao Te Ching. When I read that made a lot of sense to me. It seemed like there was some real kind of deep insights in there that I hadn't really seen a lot of before. And then that kind of led me into Buddhism, and kind of I hate to say I'm many-ism or ist of anything, but I mean, it's kind of like that. And then, there's other things that kind of So I don't have like one thing. I mean, I just kind of have certain beliefs that I have. I think I have reasons why I believe the things I do. And then I have other things that are opinions that I don't have. I call opinions because I don't really have as good a reason to call them a belief. I'm a little more flexible on. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, so would you consider yourself basically a pretty solid agnostic?
I don't know. Maybe depending on how you define that word. I mean, people, that's the things one of the things I kind of try to avoid is labels, because labels have a lot of baggage, and people sometimes have different assumptions about what a label means.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to be like, I'd rather talk about specifics of what I believe and what I don't, rather than put me in a sandbox and then I'm trying to fight my way in or out of that sandbox, Okay. So if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm, as I said, I live in the Kansas City area. I'm 55 years old. I'm a dental lab technician, so I make crown and bridge work for dentists. I'm self-employed, so I'm my own lab, a one-man shop. And then, sadly, I'm divorced. I was married for 25 years. And my wife left me probably divorced about 7 years ago almost. I've got 6 kids, ages 31 down to 18, 3 boys and 3 girls. And I am a born-again Christian. I'm of the Reformed Baptist persuasion. And I've been a Christian about almost 35 years now. I became a Christian when I was 20. I was raised in a Christian home. My mother was a Christian. My father was, he might have claimed to be a Christian, but he didn't go to church or anything. So he was fairly irreligious. But I did not understand the Christian faith. It didn't really make sense to me until I was 20. And then I went to a Christian missionary training thing down in Arkansas. I wasn't even a Christian when I went down there, and there I understood the Gospels in Northwest Arkansas when I was 20. And then I came back a few years later, and I met my wife down there, and we came back up here. And so I've been living here ever since. So that's where I'm coming from. And so before we begin, I always ask my interlocutors if they will grant me 2 fundamental presuppositions in our exchange, namely, will you grant the validity of the law of non-contradiction and the validity of the basic reliability of sense perception?
Well, what you're going to have to do is probably explain those to me a little more, because I don't really know what they mean.
So. Okay, well, I appreciate that. I really like when people say I don't know, because I'm very gracious. But if somebody can be a smart aleck about it, I'll be. I'm pretty sure. And most people are like that. Most people are like, they try to pretend. So if you say you don't know, that's great, and I'll try to do my best to explain to you. Law of non-contradiction is one of the 3 laws of thought that Aristotle came up that basically says that something cannot be and not be at the same time and in the same relationship. A great example is I can be both a father and a son, but not at the same time and in the same relationship. So to my father, I'm a son, but I can also be a father myself at the same time, but it's a different relationship. I can be, a father to my son and a son to my father. So basically, anytime, and by the way, I've never had anybody question these 2. Some people will say because of quantum mechanics, they'll kind of hold a little reservation because of the law of non-contradiction, but that doesn't.
That came to my mind too when you said that.
Yeah,
I'll grant you that. I mean, it sounds reasonable. I think if you say something and then you use that law and say, well, it fits this law, and then I don't really see that that's right, then I guess my only hesitation is I'm not sure of all the kind of ways that can be used. And I don't want to say, well, that's a joker for you. It's like, you can just play that whenever you need to, I mean, okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But here's the problem though, with a law of non-contradiction. And I've been doing this over a decade. But the the problem when you deny the law of non-contradiction, Aristotle also came with this principle called the principle of explosion. Said the moment that you deny the law of non-contradiction, then the very opposite of whatever you assert is also true at the same time. Everything explodes. In other words, you can't. All I'm asking for is saying, can we rely on rational coherence? Okay. If you're saying, well, no, I don't want to be rationally coherent. Well, what are we talking about? You know.
Well, I think I'll start off with that. I don't see a problem with that. You know. Yeah, it's fine.
I've never had anybody that has a problem with it.
Yeah.
All right. And then secondly is the basic reliability of sense perception, which basically says not that our senses are perfect or anything like that, but if we're going to have any interaction with this world in which we live, we've got to have some kind of connection to it. And even though our senses fail us a lot, we've got to have that. What I'm giving you basically is the two foundations for science. And I don't mean just science, empirical science. I mean science, comes from the Latin sciare, just means knowledge. If we're going to have knowledge of anything, we've got to have rational coherence, and we've got to have some kind of relationship with our senses that can give us information in order for us to synthesize.
Well, I kind of agree with that. I mean, our senses can certainly fool us, and they're not unreliable, or they're not totally reliable. I mean, so I'm not sure. I mean, I can be in a.
You're agreeing with me.
Huh?
You're agreeing with me. I'm not saying they're infallible. In fact, I'm saying they're wrong a lot. But can we rely on them at all?
Well, I think we all rely on them to a certain extent.
We have to.
We have to get by. Sure.
So that's all I'm asking for, just the basic reliability.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, I've never had anybody, and I've debated PhDs in philosophy as well, and nobody's ever even questioned that. So I'm not trying to pull a fast one or anything on the air. I've got to lay that groundwork because I don't even remember what I talked to Randy about, but most of my conversations usually go in the same way. And people, once we get into the conversation, they'll actually try to wiggle out of that, because the arguments that I offered on they're not evidences, they're proofs, they're rational proofs. And so not only have I never lost an argument, not because I'm intelligent, it's just how the arguments are formed. I've never had a serious challenge, not once. And you can look at my page. I've got 100, and I don't know how many I got to go, 100 in exchanges that I have here. So what I'm saying, so when I start out with God, I don't know if you remember, did you feel like, I'm sure we argued about the existence of God in that.
I don't never argue about the existence of God. I think that's when I said the generic God. I mean, what does God mean? Is God Brahman? Is God Yahweh? Is God Tao? Is God Tao? Is God, I mean, God, you can talk to different people from different cultures and there's all ideas of God. So, I mean, so proving God or disproving God, I think it's impossible to prove that God doesn't exist. I don't think anybody can do that.
Okay, what if I define God as the ultimate reality who created all things and upholds all things by his power? I mean, yeah, you can say people define him differently, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm giving
you're basically saying there's a creator God.
A creator and sustainer, yeah.
Okay.
That's the fundamental argument. Because
now is this a God of the universe? Of the whole universe?
It depends on how you define universe. You mean universe all it is?
The observable universe, what we observe, is it the God of all? Did that God create the observable universe that we see?
Yes, all contingent being, yes.
Okay, all right.
And because everything that exists that changes is dependent by definition, and dependent being cannot exist independently by definition. So there must be two types of ontologies.
Let me think about an independent. I mean,
dependent existence cannot exist.
What you're basically saying is nothing created God. God's is not created. Is the only thing that's not created. Is that what you're saying?
Well, more specifically, I'm saying anything that changes is dependent. And,
I agree with that. Yeah.
And anything that is dependent cannot be independent, therefore necessitating some independent being upon which it depends.
No, I don't think that's true. I can't accept that. I mean, I don't. I mean, you're taking kind of the dualist approach. You know, you got reality here, and then you got to have something else. Well, I can't go with that. I can say everything that changes and everything that happens is dependent on something else. But then all of a sudden to create some external thing here and says, but there's this thing outside of all this other stuff, and that's necessary. And I'm saying, no, why is that necessary?
So you're saying dependent being can exist independently?
No, I'm saying why we need a being. I'm not sure that follows. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying that it doesn't.
Okay, so how do you
necessarily
rebut
mean
my
there is
argument?
one. I don't. That doesn't necessarily follow it. No.
Okay, so how do you justify dependent being existing independently?
Well, I'm not justifying that. I'm not saying that that's the case.
So you're saying
you could say, for instance, that it depends on your version. I mean, you're thinking in terms of we have this thing that's created, and then we must have a creator. That's kind of what you're boiling it down to. And I'm saying that there's different versions of the universe. I mean, some versions have that the universe is eternal. Some versions are that the universe is cyclic and has gone on forever. Some versions are that time, space-time when it began, there is that you even talk about before or after that has no meaning, because meaning is defined by time and we're in it. So you're totally off the chart. I mean, there's a whole lot of explanations for that without saying, oh, we have this and everything has to be cause. So now over here, we need this separate thing to create it. Well, I just don't understand that jump, because I can come up with 2 or 3 things, other explanations.
Okay, but Don, every one of those options, you gave me 3 options there. Every single one of those requires that dependent existence exists independently, which is a violation of the first law that you granted me. You granted me the law of non-contradiction, and now you're wanting to violate it.
See, I knew you were going to. Okay, let's take the Tao, for instance. I don't know. Have you ever read the Tao Te Ching?
No.
Okay. The Tao says that everything comes from it. And it's a non-dualistic philosophy, meaning that everything that is, it comes from itself. And actually, the thing that I find fascinating is that a lot of quantum physics says the same thing, that everything is a wave function. The whole universe is one wave function. And the reality is just a quantum foam, and fluctuations in that are reality when there's fluctuations. And this thing has existed forever, and the universe can just be a fluctuation in that. And there is no beginning, no creator. Creator has no meaning because it is creating itself. It's creating versions of itself. And if you go to like Brahman in the Hindu religion, they're basically saying the same thing. They said the same thing a couple thousand years ago about Brahman. Everything, all the other gods, all the devas, all the people, everything are just dreams of Brahman. So, I mean, there's this kind of non-dualistic way that a lot of philosophers and science is very non-dualistic, and these are all kind of matching up, these non-dualistic philosophies to me, and the dualistic philosophy of like, well, we have this creator and we have this creation, and there's 2 separate things. I don't see where that follows.
Yeah, but that's not dualism.
Well, that's
dualism doesn't work. So you granted me that that everything that changes is dependent, did you not?
Yes.
Okay, and so you're saying ultimate reality is change.
Yes, I am.
So ultimate reality is dependent.
Yes.
So all existence is dependent independently.
On itself.
Independently.
Of what?
It's independent.
Well, it's not independent of itself. That's as soon as you say something's independent, then that
the self.
assumes there's more than one thing.
The whole thing you're talking about, it is independent, right?
Well, I mean, independent is kind of, if you use the word independent, it kind of implies that it's independent from something else, which is kind of a dualistic way of thinking about it. That if you're, so independent doesn't really describe it. It's not described by that. It just is. It's not independent from anything. It just is the way it is.
No, it's changing. That which is changes is not what it is.
No, that's what it is. It's changing.
It becomes something else, though. When something changes, it becomes something else than what it is. This is a great argument between Heraclitus and Parmenides in the pre-Socratics. Are you familiar with them?
No, but I don't see it as it becoming something else. It becomes something else like a wave in the ocean. You can say, oh, the wave became something else than the ocean. No, it didn't. It just came part of the ocean in a different form. It's not separate. It's not different. It's the same thing. It's just a different way. And that was basically what, like the idea of Brahma. That was the idea of that. That was Brahma. He is living every being through himself. And he's in every one of those as a dream state of himself. And then if you look at like quantum physics, it's going, everything is just a wave. We have this one continuous reality that it's not matter, it's not energy, it's just a reality that is creating this from like Schrodinger's wave equation. I mean, it's just everything fits that. And the science fits it and shows that that's true. At the fundamental level, we're just fields. Everything is just a field.
Okay,
and
so
that field doesn't need to have a beginning to.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're arguing that everything is pure being and a composite of potential being and actual being together at the same time and in the same relationship. Again, you're violating the law of thought.
I don't know how I'm violating anything. I'm just telling you what I think. And
I know, but it's not rational.
It matches the science. It matches the science.
No, it doesn't match the science because science is predicated upon rational coherence.
I'm telling you that everything. So you're saying that Schrodinger's wave equation and all that quantum physics is wrong?
No, it doesn't violate the law of non-contradiction. Wave particle duality doesn't in no way violates the law of non-contradiction.
I'm not talking about wave duality, particle duality. I'm talking about quantum field theory. I'm saying that like everything is just a field, and reality is just this interconnected field of everything changing and moving together and interdependent on each other. Everything is interdependent on each other, and it's all moving and it's all in flux. And so that's kind of what I think. I mean, that matches that, and it also matches. There's a lot of philosophers and religious and mystics throughout history that have come up with amazing stuff that they've said like 1,000 years ago when they were in deep meditation or something, that you go back and look. And a lot of that matches up with quantum physics. And so I'm just looking at for what reasons. See, this stuff is all beyond me and you. We don't know that. God didn't come down and give us an interview. I mean,
you're retreating, my friend.
No, I'm not. I'm explaining to you. I'm explaining to you why I arrive at what I'm thinking. You're
trying to be irrational thoughtfully.
Pardon me?
You're trying to be irrational thoughtfully. It doesn't work.
So you don't believe in quantum field theory, I take it.
Well, sure. I have no problem with it. I don't understand how.
Well, that's all it's saying. What I'm saying is, there's a lot of religions that are people in the past and throughout history that have spoken in myths and metaphors to try to explain what's going on. And some of those people, I think, probably might have had a inkling of what was going on. I don't know. I mean, some of it certainly tends to match a lot of our modern science. And so I just I don't have a vested interest in believing any of this, but I'm interested in it, and I find it fascinating. And so I don't have an agenda. I just kind of look at what I see, and I find it amazing that some of these people that they have, where they were in meditation for 3 months solid and did nothing except feel their body and the universe around them, and they came up with a lot of the stuff that agrees with some of the science today. If they're using different words, they're not using it in the same language, but a lot of it, when you really look at it, it's a very similar outlook, and that's what I go with. I think it makes sense to me.
Okay, but what you've offered me so far is not very appetizing. You've just taken something because somebody told you it was true, not because it's rigorously able to go through testing.
I've been meditating for over 30 years. Okay, and I've had experiences meditating that matched up with some of these experiences. I mean,
that doesn't mean anything to me. I want to know rational.
No, of course it doesn't. I'm telling you that I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just telling you why I am where I'm at. You are where you're at. We each have reasons for what we believe. Okay, and you have your reasons and I have mine.
But yours are not very good.
Well, to you they're not. Well, they're to you they're not. To me,
you granted me the law of non-contradiction, Don.
It's not a joke.
I told you this happens about halfway through the conversations.
You're trying to use that as a joker to play it now, and I'm telling you very plainly that, okay, what's the part you don't agree with? Tell me exactly what I'm saying that is contradicting.
You granted me that everything that changes is dependent by definition.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
If everything is changing, then everything is dependent independently, which is a violation of the law of identity.
No, if things change all the time. I mean, if a wave's coming this way and it hits the shore, or it hits this and these two waves hit each other, they caused by that. But they're all, when you look at it, they're all part of the same thing. They're all just moving together. They're vibrating together. They're moving, and they don't need, when you look at, if you put like you put a limit on it and say, okay, we're going to only go back this far, and then we cut it off. And now that has what started, now it has to have a reason. But if you don't cut it off, if you don't put our human limits on it and say, oh, we got to fit it in this box, it can cause itself. There's nothing to say it can't. It's just our thinking that's thinking that, because we don't have, this is a big topic for us. This is a big topic for humans.
Yeah, but so Don, all you're wanting to say, though, is you're just wanting to retreat and make it sound plausible, which it's not.
Retreat from what? What am I retreating?
Basically, it's something we can't understand. Isn't that what you're asserting?
No, I'm saying more than that. I'm saying that what I meant was, we can't know for sure. We can't, like I said, God didn't come down here and give any of us interviews. I mean, so none of us really know for sure.
Oh, I think we do. I don't think we can have absolute certainty of anything. But if there's one thing that I can know that God exists. In fact, I know that God exists more than I know that you're sitting here. You could be an illusion in my mind. But analytically, I'm not self-dependent. I'm not independent. I'm dependent in my existence. Therefore, there must be something upon which I derive my being.
Of course there is. Of course there is.
It's not me. It's not me, because I didn't exist at one time.
Well, it's okay. It is, we're all dependent. I totally believe in everything's changing, and everything's changing for a cause. Yes, I do. But I don't put that outside of reality. Reality, there's nothing to say. I mean, we're trying to sit here and talk about what's the parameters for reality. And we don't know that. And you're trying to kind of put limits on reality. Well, reality's got to be this, and so we need this. You don't know that. You don't know what reality is. Reality could go back to a zillion years, and for infinite. I mean, that's what the Christian religion says. We're going to go to heaven and be there for eternity, forever. Well, we can go backwards too. If we can go forward, we can certainly go backwards and say there's always been something. And this reality has always existed, and it's always changed, and it's like waves in an ocean. I don't see that that's a big leap, and like I'm retreating from anything saying that.
Well, you're retreating from rational coherence.
Well, that's certainly a lot to me, I mean, you got your way of looking at it, but to me, that's certainly a lot more rational than believing in some tribal god that is like made the universe. I mean, you know, I mean, you look at the universe. The universe is like our solar system. We have our solar system, and what? We're like maybe there's like 400 billion galaxies like the Milky Way in the universe. There's like 400, there's like more, well, there's more than that. There's close to 1 trillion. And then if you take a galaxy like the Milky Way, we got like 400 or 500 billion stars. So we have 400 or 500 billion times 700 or 800 billion or whatever galaxies. We got a number so big that we cannot imagine it. If you took you went to the beach and you picked up a handful of sand and look at those grains, and then you look down the beach and miles of beach, and you think of how many grains of sand, well, take that many grains, and every beach in the whole world on all of Earth, the Earth is smaller than 1 grain of sand in all the beaches on the Earth. And we're supposed to believe that the God that created all this had a favorite tribe in the Middle East, that they were the only ones that even knew about him? I mean, really? And you're talking about unreasonable? I mean, come on. I mean, you know,
what
I mean, you have your reasons for believing that, but I mean, you have your reasons for believing that, but to me, that sounds really unreasonable.
Okay, what law of thought was violated in that assertion you made?
I don't know. I don't know the laws of thought.
Because you violated a law of thought with your perspective. Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to talk here in like language that we can like talk English and we don't bring in laws. Tell me exactly why what I said makes no sense to you. And try not to just use a law and throw that out. That's why I was hesitating in the beginning. I thought you might just say, well, let's grant me this law and I'll just use it as a joker anytime I get in trouble. I mean, explain it in
what
detail.
I said about the principle of explosion?
In detail. Do you want to explain in detail what is that I said that makes less sense than a local tribal god in the Middle East creating a billion galaxies?
Well, for something to create itself, it would need to be and not be at the same time in the same relationship. Do you agree with that?
For something to create. Who said anything about creating itself? See, I'm not saying anything's creating itself. I'm saying it's change. We said it's change. It's not creation. And change sometimes means creation, but it's only like when a baby is born, that is a creation, and that's born, that's new. But that baby came from molecules and the earth and air and water, and it just didn't pop into existence. It changed, and it became something. And so that's what I'm talking about. Everything is changing. It doesn't need a creator because it uses itself. It's using itself as resources.
Okay, so but the problem you're saying, no, it's all that everything that changes, you said, is dependent.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so everything in the universe is dependent independently.
It's not dependent. Dependent is not the right word. It's cause. Change has
no,
cause.
It's effect. No, it's effect.
Yes, effect. It has.
You can't have an effect without a cause.
That's right. Yes,
I agree. You can't have an infinite regress of effects without causes. Would you agree with that?
Why?
Because cause and effect is an analytical statement. Because
that's right. It's limited because of our language and the way we use it. But why?
No, not limited. It's analytical.
Why, in the grand scheme of the universe, can it not have an infinite regress? Why can't it? Einstein believed that. Einstein believed the universe was infinite. A lot of people, that's been a popular thing that a lot of people believe.
I don't care if the Pope says it. It doesn't matter. I need to have it be coherent.
Well, it's just as coherent as
it's not coherent.
Saying the universe
you can't have an effect without a cause. Tell me something, Don. How do you define an effect without invoking the concept of cause?
I don't. Everything's got a cause.
You can't do it. You can't do it. Cause and effect is an analytical truth. It's a mathematical truth.
Sure, I agree.
And it's just an extrapolation of the law of non-contradiction. If you have an effect without a cause, you have something creating itself before.
But that's not taken. But do you know the nature of infinity? I mean, it's basically the universe could vary, reality, not the universe even. We could have a reality where there could have been a zillion, billion universes in the past. Reality could go on forever.
And that
I
only
mean,
exacerbates
certainly.
the
No,
problem
wait a
by
minute.
infinity.
I mean, doesn't the Christian religion say that from now on your soul's going to go on forever, or does
Yes.
it come to an end at that point?
No, but it didn't start. It wasn't eternal. It was created and is upheld for eternity.
Oh, it's created, but now it's going to
By
go
an
for
eternal
eternity.
one.
But
Right.
so if you believe that something can go in eternity in the future, why don't you believe that something could go eternity in the past?
Because you can't be dependent independently. If something changes, it's dependent.
It has a cause. It's not dependent. Dependent means it implies something external to itself, and that like there's something. I mean, if I drop a ball, it has a cause. It's gravity. It's not, but it wasn't like an external, like God is not moving the ball down. I mean, God is not moving everything around. Things just happen because of the way that our time-space continuum, this universe, the laws of physics in it, are working. And there's no guarantee that other universes don't have other laws of physics. I mean, you're thinking in a very small, you seem to have kind of a small way of looking. I mean, I don't want to be insulting, but I see what you seem to be kind of limiting, and I'm just kind of looking,
but
saying,
you need to do it with reason,
there's no
my friend.
reason
You can't
to
just
limit.
assert it because you like it.
Well, I can say the same thing to you. I mean, you're asserting
Okay,
a lot of
what
things.
law of thought did I violate? How have I been irrational?
I'm talking about just keeping our conversation simple. I'd rather you didn't just like all of a sudden say we are violating this law. I mean, well, if I'm doing something wrong, explain what it is. I mean, it sounds like what you're explaining is, if I heard you right, is you have a problem with there being the universe being infinitely going back far. However, my guess is you have no problem with external God going externally and backwards in time. One of those you have no problem with, the other you do.
Time is a measurement of change. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So before creation, there was no change. Even Stephen Hawking said that. I think it's like page 4 of the Nature and Space and Time. He said, almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning at the Big Bang. Time doesn't make any sense outside of movement or change. So to say God went back and eternally in time is a category error.
Okay, has always existed, or as whatever, has always existed. Or whatever.
Yahweh, that's what it means. I am that I am.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, and see, that's one of the problems. I mean, I don't want to, if we want to talk about one of the problems with, oh shoot, my computer's running out of battery.
Your phone's going low?
Well, Don, I need to leave here. Duh. I was looking at my computer. I was looking at my phone, and it says 13%. And then I'm looking at the plug on the computer, and I'm going, why is my phone running?
Well, listen, I've got to go soon, Don, because I got to go to the post office.
Let me explain. One of the things was what problems I have with Christianity and the version of God. I'll tell you, and this is one you can think about, is if God is out of time and space, then God can have no emotions. God can have no feelings about anything, or be surprised or be angry or anything, because he's experienced all the time together. He's not moving linearly through time. And to have an emotion like in the Old Testament where God's jealous, or he gets angry at Eve for eating an apple or whatever, he doesn't have a God of all without space and time. Outside of that, doesn't just pick a little time. I think I'll live here for a while. I mean, all of time and space is going to be simultaneously known, and there's no emotion, no surprises, because emotions are based on change. If you have an emotion, you're changing. And the God of the Bible is supposed to not change, which means he can't have emotions. He can't have jealousy. He can't have anger. He can't have any of those feelings, because those are change. So, I mean, those are something to think about. I mean, I can go on for a long time about a bunch of issues that I have with the way that Christianity is. And I don't mean to attack it, because it works for a lot of people. But
I think it's important to challenge these things.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just telling you from my point of view. I mean, things make sense to you that's fine. And there's other things that make sense to me. And I'm just trying to relay to you why my head is where it's at. And to me, I've tried to honestly be honest with myself of what makes sense to me.
Okay.
And
well, listen, Don, I really do need to go. I'm sorry. I hate to cut you
sure,
off like this, but the post office is going to close in 30 minutes and I got to go across town to get it. But we can talk again sometime if you want. And you've been very kind, and I appreciate you're very transparent. You're not trying to, sometimes I'll talk to people and they feel they got this drum to beat and they can't get off of, but you've been very honest and just told me what you thought, and you listened to what I've said and let me talk. So I very much appreciate that. And
good. It's been good talking to you too. I enjoy talking to people who've got different ideas, because I really do learn from people that don't agree with me all the time.
Yeah.
And
I appreciate that.
So
okay. All right. So we'll maybe we'll talk again sometime soon. But thank you for this time, and you have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
Okay. We'll see you, Don.